A pleasant good afternoon all, and thank you, Mr. Williams. Now, this afternoon I did not prepare a speech as such, but I thought that as we approach the upcoming Labour holiday weekend, that I speak a bit on vaccine and highlight, on events, and highlight some of my experiences over the last weekend with respect to events. Now, on average, we see in the Federation 100 approved events per week. Most of these events are on the weekend generally, and we see a spike whenever there is a holiday weekend. And from observation in other countries, we see that whenever there is a spike in the virus, in the corona in these countries, it's usually after a celebration, a major event where large crowds gathers, and then shortly after that event you have a spike, a surge in the number of cases. And we have a tendency here in the Federation to have crowded events on weekends, on holiday weekends in particular, without regard for protocols. And so we have a responsibility as law enforcement, as members of the task force, to remind persons of their responsibility so that they avoid these type of behavior. Now I just want to highlight 3 of my experiences in observing the events in the Federation, in St. Kitts, over last weekend. My first experience was with an event that was approved for Old Road, in Old Road. A daycare center had a barbecue, and they had permission to have hi-fi music with a DJ. Lo and behold, when we visited the event, there was a live band present in full operation. The permit for that event expressly restricted or prohibited live bands. Additionally, there were a 5-year-old at the entrance doing temperature checks for the patrons, a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old taking the names of persons attending. Of course, everybody just passed them straight and play with them and tap them on the head, and nothing was done that was supposed to be done. A total disregard for the protocols and the conditions that were set in that permit. The police stopped the ban and end the event, and the parents were not very happy. They were disrespectful to the police, as if it was the police who did something wrong and not them. So we want to bring these type of behavior to the attention of persons, that it is not acceptable. Persons must take responsibility when they do things that are wrong, and action is taken against them. There are consequences. My second experience was with a dance recital that got approval for 150 persons. When the event was visited, there were over 300 persons at that event. The organizers were spoken to, and criminal action is still being contemplated in that. The jury is still out on that one. We are seriously considering criminal action with respect to that particular event. And my final experience was with a live band that was in full operation at the food court at Rams camps. This band had no permission, absolutely no permission. They were hired by a bar at the establishment, and the owner thought that he had a right to have entertainment at his establishment, whether or not he had permission. Of course, the band was stopped, his operation was closed down, and he was given a severe warning. Now, I raise these 3 incidents to show what the compliance team and the police have to deal with week after week. That was just a sample of what goes on weekends in particular at these events. And we must realize that these protocols were established for our safety. They were not designed, they were not intended to suppress entertainment, to suppress people's enjoyment, but more so to protect people from the spread of the virus. We know the spread of the virus is facilitated by persons congregating in large crowds or crowded events. And so we try to prevent this by enforcing the protocols. A maximum of 100 persons are permitted for indoor events where the space permits it, and 150 persons for outdoor events. Social distancing, physical distancing is still required. The wearing of masks is still required. As we move into the phase now of vaccination, we will see some easing of these restrictions. We have already seen these easing of the restrictions have begun, and there will be further easing, but we still have to comply with the protocols until the restrictions are eased. And so we want to admonish persons, those of you who have not been vaccinated, to get vaccinated so that we could increase the pace of the easing of the restrictions. It is for your own good, it is for your own safety, and we encourage all to take their own health in their own hands. Thank you.